I'm Lisa Renee Jones, also Lisa Renee Harrison, and this is my husband, Diego Harrison. And as many of you know, we were auction hunting before auction hunting was made cool by Storage Wars. And we're going to talk today about one of the last units that we bought, though we did most of our auction hunting in Texas, some in New York. And we can talk in another video about how regional stuff really does affect auction hunting. But today we'll talk about this particular unit. And interesting enough, I can say that I can really look at this unit as a blessing because this unit ended up paying months and months of our bills, one unit. And what it was, and would you go ahead, why don't you tell the whole experience of how you got it and what you saw and what made you bid on it?
Well, it was one of those units where they open the door and dust. The first thing you see is dust. And then once that settles, then you kind of see, oh, okay. And what I saw was just what appeared to be, several hundred posters and some boxes that were bigger than posters, so they contained other things. And I thought, well, okay, it's not bad. It's kind of a collector's unit. And
he's a big collector, which was a huge problem when we were auction hunting.
Yeah, because I didn't want to sell anything that we got. So I figured, okay, I'll bid. But okay, there were a lot of shelves full of stuff. So maybe in reality, I thought it was several hundred posters. But I was still okay with it. I thought, okay, we didn't have an outside storage room for us to keep stuff, so I thought, okay, we could keep it in our little 2-car garage, and we have plenty of room to park, and no problem. Well, so I bid, and a few other people bid against me. Went for about $300 or $400. Not bad for that kind of unit, but once I got in there, wow, I did not realize it was almost it was thousands upon thousands of posters.
But it was such a cool unit because, well, now I think so. At the time, it was like, wow. It had been an 80s movie store. So, and then not only that, it was an ex-World War II unit. And so, well, the gentleman,
he was a vet.
A vet, yeah. So it had all kinds of old letters he'd written to his wife and all kinds of things from when he was in the service. So we had to set that stuff aside because we knew the World War II stuff was a big deal, but we had all these posters and it was thousands and thousands. It had 20 years of dust on it.
Yeah, so what we saw was, what I saw, was a rolled up poster. But what I didn't know is that when you look down on it, there was about 50 or 60 rolled into one big tube.
God.
So when you're looking at eye level, it just looks like a whole bunch of posters inside of a box, but just rolled up. Now I know, your vantage point definitely makes a difference.
And it had standees like you see in the store too.
Standees.
But okay, so he paid like $300 or $400 for it. Now at the time we really needed money, and so out of all those posters, and we'll talk about the work that was involved and why it was worth it. But the one thing that he didn't want to give away, but paid for the unit completely. I know, and it was heartbreaking to have to get rid of it because we're huge UFC fans, and it had the very first UFC poster ever made.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was, and he did not want to let it go, but
I dragged my feet on that.
Yeah, he did. We needed money, and of course it went for like $450.
No, it went for $800.
$800, okay. It was years ago. So just that one poster. So the things that really we didn't expect to be worth a lot of money were B horror movies, and he's a horror movie freak. He did not want to let go of those either.
Well, some of those I've never even heard of, but they were very, very popular. What we ended up doing, we drug our feet together on that poster unit. We said, well, who's going to want to buy posters? Seriously. So we sold all of our other inventory that we had from auctions that we had left over from Texas and maybe earlier ones here in Colorado. And then finally we're like, what are we going to do? We have no more inventory. So we decided to just dig in and we saturated the market with posters, and wow, we had no idea that there was a poster community. I'm a collector and I had no idea.
But it was just like, and we can talk about this in another time, but when you get record albums, you think that certain ones are like, oh, I got the Bee Gees or whatever, and you think that's going to be like cool, but those are worth nothing. This was similar in that we saw things that were really cool to us that we thought were worth money, but it ended up being that it was the opposites. So it was so much work. So the process we set up, and it really took two of us, was literally, and let me tell you, when we worked with these posters, we looked like we'd been in a chimney. It was that much dust. It was, oh my gosh, it was crazy. So we started unrolling posters, and I would research them online, figure out what they were worth, and I would take him the ones that seemed, and I would prioritize hot, not hot. And then I would take them to him, and he had this whole thing set up where he was taking these amazing pictures of them. And then later in the day, we would split them up and list them. It was so much work, all day long for weeks and weeks.
Yeah, from 9 in the morning or whenever we woke up till way late in the evening. She put her writing on hold at the time so we could just concentrate on posters, and it was a full-time job. We did it for weeks and weeks, like she said, but luckily we made a ton of money on them, and that was.
Yeah.
And we didn't even go through our inventory.
No, we still have tons of posters.
Thousands
Oh
upon
my gosh,
thousands.
and we keep saying we're going to sell them, and we haven't. So if anybody wants to buy a whole bunch of posters, and of course we have picked out a lot of the prime ones, but what we found was that if you put them in a store, then they do eventually sell, and the posters kept selling. But the thing was we came to a point where we got out of it. Fortunately, writing let us do that, and so we stopped selling them. But we have a bunch of posters left. But anyway, so now you know, horror movie posters are definitely a hot find. Even some of them that aren't in the greatest condition. I mean, we had some that had tears, and those horror movie fanatics didn't care. Although we had many that were in tip-top shape.
Yeah, like this one. Some of these, this is one that we had that I kept.
Yes, he snuck some that I did not want him to sneak at the time.
This is a classic for a collector. It's GoBots.
I have no idea what GoBots are.
And we had duplicates of a lot of them, and this one we have one other one, and it sold for decent money. But there's no way I was going to give one away. I mean, I'm a big collector, and GoBots was a childhood thing of mine. And it comes with little promo stuff, and a lot of these posters did. They came with promo material. We still have some book covers. You know how back in the day, kids in school, middle school, would, I don't know if they still do that, they cover their textbooks. And we had some Freddy Krueger ones from Nightmare on Elm Street 1. We still have a whole bunch of those left. Those sold for like $10 a piece. We still have about 20 or 30 of them. So it goes to the way that you sell things, the inventory, how long it's up in the store, online. It makes a huge difference. You can land big customers all at one time. Like if somebody wants to buy 50 or 60 posters, which we have a lot of.
Sorry, you guys. Yes, and Howard the Duck was in there, and that one was kind of nostalgic for me because my son had watched that over and over and over again. And I didn't know if it would be worth money, but it turned out that it was a pretty hot commodity too. I guess there were a lot of people who were pretty crazy for Howard the Duck at the time. Can you think of any of the others that we really didn't expect that ended up being?
No, a lot of them were like what she just talked about, nostalgic people. People would call and say that they wanted to throw an 80s party, and they wanted me to just pick out random 80s posters.
Yeah, I remember that.
For their parties. I had a lot of those. It got to the point where I didn't know what to pick out for them. It was my taste versus theirs, and I kind of told them, well, you have to pick out what we have in the inventory and tell me what you want.
Right. So, it was a hot commodity unit, and so 80s is still a really hot era. So if you get an opportunity to do 80s, I highly recommend you do it. And we made thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars off that unit. But it was a lot of work, but it paid our bills for months and months and months. So the great thing was he didn't have to go back to auction units. We didn't have to dig through a bunch of boxes. We had our inventory right here, and we were able to just go through it. And I think this is also an example of how teamwork works as well. We both listed. So I went through inventory, he did the pictures, and had a backache all the time from those, and we combined the listing. But anyway, so that's talking about how posters can be a real plus, and we ended up doing well with a lot of the World War II stuff too, because there's a lot of World War II collectors, but this is getting kind of long, so we'll leave it here. So we will talk to you next time about some of our other experiences.
Yep.